Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for June the 25th. Today we are reading together Psalm number 77. The 77th Psalm has been given the title in my Bible, Confidence in a Time of Crisis. This is another Psalm of Asaph. The superscription says, for the choir director according to Jeduthun, which I think would be a tune. This is of Asaph. This is a psalm, the superscription tells us. This is in the midst of a run of psalms written by Asaph, or those who might have belonged to a part of his choir that he established during the early days of temple worship, going back even, I believe, to the days of David. So these psalms are, again, probably packed in here together because they have the same author, and they also play off of each other pretty well, as we've seen throughout the reading of these psalms, Psalm 73 through 83. Today's psalm is going to focus on, as the title says, a time of crisis, and the way that the author moves from despair into confidence in his God to sustain him through these times of distress, these times of trouble and despair. So let me get the text up on the screen and we'll read along together here in Psalm number 77. This psalm doesn't give us any specific historical detail, and even within the psalm itself, we're not given an exact description of what these days or this day of trouble includes. So maybe there's just a general application that is being that is the focus of this psalm. Maybe not, again, a specific thing, but maybe just overall, whenever somebody endures a time of trouble, this would be something that would be used as encouragement for the worshiper or the one who might sing or pray according to this psalm. So let's read here in Psalm 77, verse number 1. Psalm 77, verse number 1, I cry aloud to God, aloud to God, and he will hear me. I sought the Lord in my day of trouble. My hands were continually lifted up all night long. I refused to be comforted. I think of God. I groan. I meditate. My spirit becomes weak. Selah. You have kept me from closing my eyes. I am troubled and cannot speak. I consider days of old, years long past. At night I remember my music. I meditate in my heart, and my spirit ponders. Will the Lord reject forever, and never again show his favor? Has his faithful love ceased forever? Is his promise at an end for all generations? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger withheld his compassion? Selah. So I say, I am grieved, that the right hand of the Most High has changed. I will remember Yahweh's works. Yes, I will remember your ancient wonders. I will reflect on all you have done and meditate on your actions. God, your way is holy. What God is great like God? You are the God who works wonders. You revealed your strength among the peoples. With power, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The water saw you, God. The water saw you. It trembled. Even the depths shook. The clouds poured down water. The storm clouds thundered. Your arrows flashed back and forth. The sound of your thunder was in the whirlwinds. Lightning lit up the world. The earth shook and quaked. Your way went through the sea, and your path through the vast water, but your footprints were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Psalm number 77. Psalm number 77. So thinking about this psalm again, we find ourselves in a familiar place where the author is very much distressed, in a state of despair. And the initial words of the psalm read in the Christian Standard Bible, I cry aloud to God, aloud to God, and he will hear me. If we were to translate this very literally, very stringently, word for word, we would just simply read, my voice to God, and he will hear me. So here it seems that the depth of the despair of the author here is so great that he's not even really writing in incomplete thoughts and sentences. You don't have the typical um, noun, verb, and target of those things. It's just my voice to God, my voice to God. So this is somebody who is very much in the depths of despair, in the doldrums of disappointment and pain and suffering of some in some way. And yet let's note here, let's note that he does not wallow in self-pity at all, but he does turn to God. And this reminds me of those things, the times like are described in Romans chapter 8, where we might be in times of distress and trouble and trial, and our thoughts are so that we can't even formulate them properly. But what does the text tell us in Romans chapter 8? That the Spirit intercedes for us. He intercedes for us. And that seems to be, I think, kind of the idea of what's going on here, that he is so distressed, he is so distraught that he's not even formulating things well, but he knows he needs to turn to God. So that's what he's doing here. He's just turning to God. He's seeking the Lord in his day of trouble. And we don't know exactly what that is, but whatever it is, he's seeking the Lord. He's continuing lifting up his hands all night long, but he cannot be comforted. He's groaning, he's meditating, but his spirit is weak, and he's just distraught. He doesn't know which way is up or down, left or right. He's just, again, stuck in the mire of this day of trouble. And with God being sovereign over all things, he's thinking, God's even keeping me from sleeping. He keeps me from closing my eyes. I am troubled. I cannot speak. I don't know what to do. I think about my days of old. I think about the past blessings that I experienced, my music. I meditate upon these things with my heart. And yet, as I think about my current circumstances, this painful present, what changed? What gives? How do I go from days of old, years long past, and wonderful music and joy and blessings and worship? How do I go from that to where I am now? I'm meditating upon my situation. My heart is pondering, and he begins then to confess these doubts to God, to try to comprehend and understand the situation. Will the Lord reject forever and never again show favor? I've experienced his favor in the past. Are those days over? Are they gone? Has his faithful love ceased forever? Is his promise done? Has he forgotten graciousness? Is he angry now and withholding his compassion? No, notice these terms. I want to connect some terms here. First one is, notice his faithful love in verse 8, his promise, second line of verse 8, his graciousness, verse 9, his compassion, the end of verse 9. All of these are attributes of God's covenant love and loyalty with his people. We, as his people, his covenant people, we experience his faithful love. We experience his promises fulfilled. We experience his graciousness. We experience his compassion. So as one who belongs to the covenant people of God, here, Asaph, as one of those people, he's wondering, where are these things at now? Because I sure don't feel as if I am experiencing these things at all here in the moment. It's very interesting. So have they ceased? Have they come to an end? Has he forgotten them? Are they withheld? So these things that he has once experienced in the past, again, as he's thinking about the days of old, the years long past, remember these things. Are they now done? Are they gone? Are they never coming back? So has God changed? Has God changed? These are the things, again, that an honest person going through real trials, they're very capable of asking these questions. Because that's what trials do. Trials can shake us. And that's what the evil one wants, really, with these trials, is he wants us to be shaken to the point of giving up, to the point of faithlessness, losing our faith, losing our confidence, losing our trust. So these here are some honest wrestlings with the situation. So he says, so I say, verse number 10, I am grieved. I am grieved that the right hand of the Most High has changed. Now this is this, along with back in Psalm 76 and verse number 10, these are obscure terms. So actually I should have looked at this already, but now I'm very curious to see what some of the other translations say here about this particular psalm, because there are some verses in the Old Testament especially that they're unique to their setting, and there's not really much known about what could be the exact proper translation of these things. So I'm wondering what some of the other ones have said. I should have, like, as I said, I should have looked at this earlier, but hey, while we're on the fly, might as well go and take advantage of what we have here. All right, so the New English Translation, which I like a lot, it gives a lot of good reasoning behind its translation, says that I am sickened by the thought that the Most High might become inactive. Oh, I like that a lot, actually. I like that. So maybe that clears up a little bit more of connecting the first, or that second section, verses 4, 5, and 6 with 7, 8, and 9, and then what happens beginning of verse 11, because there is a clear transition from the first 9 verses to the last 10 verses 11 through 20. And I guess the hinge point here is verse number 10. So I say, I am grieved that the right hand of the Most High has changed. The thought of that, the very thought that God has changed, leaves me in even deeper despair, with an even greater sense of despondency. But he then shifts his focus from this possibility of God having changed, this thought that's entered his mind, this tempting thought of God changing. He then begins to test that, I guess we might say. Has God changed? Or could the past truths of who God is continue to be true? So he's going to wait. Is he going to allow the present circumstances to have more weight than what he has seen from God in the past? Which of these is true? So beginning of verse number 11, then, notice the moving from I and my circumstances of the author to you and who you are, God. So verse 11, I will remember Yahweh's works. Yes, I will remember your ancient wonders. I will reflect on all you have done and meditate on your actions. So he is taking the focus off of himself and his situation and saying, okay, is this something that God is not capable of dealing with? Could it be that God has just abandoned me? Or could it be that what I'm going through has a purpose to serve? That he is allowing this for some reason, maybe in order to build up faith and greater trust in me. So I'm going to stop focusing on myself, the author says, and I'm going to focus on God, Yahweh's works, your ancient wonders, all you have done, on your actions. So what are those things? Well, verses 13, 14, and 15, God, your way is holy. What God is great like God? You are the God who works wonders. You revealed your strength among the peoples. With power, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. He goes back and just thinks about the reality of Yahweh, that there is no God like Yahweh. He is most high. He is most powerful. He is sovereign. And thinking about his character as exhibited in the past, well, he delivers his people. He reveals his strength among his people by redeeming his people, a people that, from Asaph's perspective, he belongs to. Well, let's go on from there. What else has God shown throughout history? Well, the water saw you, God. The water saw you. What did the water do? The water trembled. Even the depths shook. The clouds poured down water. The storm clouds thundered. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Lightning here. The sound of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Lightning lit up the world. The earth shook and quaked. This divine warrior imagery that God comes in judgment in the clouds, that it is his judgment that is seen through these things, through these descriptions of things that we can comprehend. We can comprehend the depths shaking. We can comprehend a monsoon of rain. We can comprehend thunder and lightning and earthquakes. We can comprehend that. So that's the way that he then images God's power in our limited capacity to understand, because he starts describing things that we don't understand. Well, how can we really grasp the power of God? But of course, his power is not confined in these things. It is so much greater than what is even described here. So there's this divine warrior imagery, but then he goes back to something that that the authors of the Psalms often focus on, which is the Exodus. Your way went through the sea, your path through the vast water, but your footsteps were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hands of Moses and Aaron. Surely, I can't think of anything else that is being referenced here more so than the crossing of the Red Sea. But the people of Israel went through on dry grounds. And yet, even without seeing the footsteps of Yahweh, they know it was by Yahweh's power that this thing happened, and that he led his people like a flock, and he allowed his under shepherds of Moses and Aaron to be his visual representation. So as he's thinking about this issue, he's putting himself here in the shoes of the Israelites as they're backed up against the Red Sea, and here is Pharaoh's army coming at him. This is his, or their day of trouble was described in that way, and maybe he's putting himself in that same situation as well, that he is backed up into a corner. His enemies are coming out at him in his day of trouble, and just like they tried to think about the past days that were good and that distracted them from God's power in the present, so is the author maybe going through the similar situation. He's thinking about how the past days were good, and he's failing to recognize that God's power remains with him here in this moment. So what the author needs to think of, God's about to part some sort of Red Sea for me. He's going to lead me. He's going to bless me. That's why I'm going to put my confidence in him. So certainly this psalm fits into the category of lament, going into praise. Failed to mention that earlier. And so often in these psalms of lament, it just takes the meditation upon the circumstance for the author to be reminded that God's got this, that he is serving the almighty, all-powerful, sovereign God. And the more that he can focus on him and his power and his promises, not based upon just something that he thinks might happen, but based upon something that God has already done, well, then he's able to be lifted up from the doldrums. He's able to be lifted up from the pit of despair and able to have peace and confidence, knowing again that God is in control and that God will be with his people and sustain them through whatever it is that they might face. It's a wonderful psalm here, Psalm 77, confidence in a time of crisis. And what we're going to do in our reading on Thursday, it's going to be a long reading. Go ahead and say that, because this is one of the longer psalms. We're going to look at Israel's past and be reminded of the great things that God has done as a means of encouraging the present people, those, not just the author, but also the present worshiper, to be reminded of God's great faithfulness to them, and why they need to remain faithful to him as well. So we will talk about that on Thursday, Psalm 78. But I do appreciate you reading along with me today in Psalm 77. If you have any questions or comments, as always, please feel free to leave those in the comments section below. And looking forward to seeing everybody tonight for our continued studies with Wilson Adams, both tonight and tomorrow night. Again, we're going to read again on Thursday morning, Psalm 78, then our study Thursday night, and then finish up with our final read of the week on Friday in Psalm 79. Again, thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Looking forward to seeing everybody tonight and getting back to reading again on Thursday. Take care and God bless.